So I wanted to share a few tips and maybe a little bit of my own experience about buying a guitar for beginners, really. So if you're an experienced player, if you're used to buying guitars, if you've bought them before, there's probably not much in here that you don't already know. But this comes from a question that I had by one of my students, so I wanted to try and give a little bit of knowledge to make sure that people who are new to the instrument and new to the experience of getting a guitar, I've got a little bit of ammunition, a little bit of forethought in terms of not getting stitched up. One of the projects that I'm involved with is a group of beginners, and we do literally sort of work, we do some one-to-one things, and we do work as a group as well. And one thing that happened recently was I was asked by one of the students, is it okay to buy a second-hand guitar, or should I always buy a guitar from a shop? Which is a perfectly good question. Before I actually answered the question, another of the students in the group offered their opinion on it, which is fantastic as well. That's one of the good things about working in a group. You get to hear what other people think, which sometimes it can be eye-opening if you're used to playing like I am myself, to hear what the opinions of other people are that maybe have had a different experience or haven't had the same experience of buying stuff and shopping for guitars. And before I knew it, it turned into a bit of a group discussion. And at that point I thought I just wanted to hold back a little bit and just hear what other people had to say. And these are all fairly new or beginner guitar players about buying a guitar. So here are a few of the things that came up. So should you buy a second-hand guitar or a new guitar, was the initial question. Somebody else said, oh well, you should always buy a new guitar because you know what you're getting. If it's a second-hand guitar, anything could have happened to it, it might not be okay. It's a good point. Obviously you don't know, if you don't know what you're looking at, you don't know what you're buying, you could end up getting anything that might have been used, abused in the past. So that was one of the things that came up. Should I buy from a shop? Should I buy privately? Should I buy online? Somebody says, oh, it's always cheaper to buy online because they've not got the costs of running a shop and those things, which is often also true as well. Sometimes you can get a better ticket price when you shop around online. I can't argue with that. Should you buy privately? Well, nothing wrong with that. I've bought instruments privately before and had a lot of success doing that. And should you buy from a shop? Well, if you buy from your local shop, bricks and mortar shop, one of the things that you expect from that is to have the backup of a shop, so that if you do have any problems with what you've bought, whether it's a guitar or whether it's a car or a television or whatever, there is that feeling that if you buy something from a shop, you're going to get that extra level of backup that you might not necessarily have by buying online or by buying from a private seller. Again, as I said before, if you're experienced, if you know what you're looking at, if you've bought guitars before, then there's no problem with buying things, second-hand from private sellers, because you should have the ability to be able to look at what you're buying and assess whether or not there's any problems with it up front before you commit yourself to buying it. As an example, really quick, this guitar I bought second-hand from a cash converters shop. Nobody in the shop had any idea about guitars or music, as I would expect. That's completely reasonable. It wasn't in the best setup when I bought it. I checked it over for obvious damage and things like that. Was the neck straight? Do all the bits of it work? If I remember rightly, I think I even took a little practice amplifier with me just so that I could test the electronics. I didn't know if the cash converters would have had an amplifier or allowed me to use it. So I did that just so I could make sure the electronics work. Even if they didn't work, more or less everything's fixable, but obviously I wanted to be aware of that up front. If you don't know about all those things and you don't know what to check, you don't know whether to check whether the neck's straight or if there's any damage that might affect the guitar so that it'll never play right, then I probably wouldn't recommend that type of approach for you. So again, looking from a complete beginner's level, you don't really know what you're buying. Perhaps you've played for a short amount of time, and your level of playing isn't quite at the standard to allow you to judge the differences between a decent guitar and one that's not particularly good. Then there's a few sort of precautions that you might want to take when you're buying, just to try and make sure you don't get sold a kipper, so to speak. My own opinion, this is just my opinion, other people might have different ones, is if you're not sure, you don't really know, if you're not confident, then your best approach, your safest approach, will be to buy from a reputable local shop. The reason I say that is because A, if it's a local shop, you've got the comeback. If there's any problems with the instrument, guitar or any other instrument, you can always go back to the shop without too much hassle and say, look, listen, I bought this, I've been playing it, this doesn't quite sound right, the strings are buzzy, or one of the knobs doesn't work or something. Even on an acoustic guitar, there might be problems with it just not sounding right and not staying in tune, or things like that. So if you've got the shop to go back to, you've got that level of backup that you wouldn't necessarily have if you're buying privately, or even from a cash converters or a non-music shop. Sadly, there's not as many quality local music shops as what there used to be. They seem to be on the decline. There used to be a bit of a phenomenon, and there used to be one in every town when I first started playing, and it was more of there was a bit of a social aspect to going in your local music shop and being able to have a go on the guitars and talk to other people who played, and you meet people, make new friends, and all that type of thing. Obviously, with everything, there's been a migration to online sales. Quite often they can offer products a little bit cheaper because they don't have the overheads, they just got big warehouses and sending stuff out in boxes. But in my experience, you don't get the same level of support that you would get from a local shop. At this point, I just do want to mention my local shop, because, as I say, that these things they're declining, and in my opinion, it's a really good thing to support your local businesses, because they tend to, as long as the shop's a good quality shop. Some aren't, so again, just do a little bit of research, speak to people, find out what's what, look at the reviews online, those type of things, and find out what's a decent shop. My local shop is Pro Solo in Burnley. It's been established since 1986. It's a family-run business, and to be honest, they've been absolutely fantastic with everything that I've ever wanted from them. The customer service is absolutely fantastic, and I've never seen that anywhere in some of these bigger multi-franchise shops, and certainly online you just don't get that type of service whatsoever. One of the things that's important with the shop, I expect to be able to walk into a music shop and pick a guitar from the wall. I've got a few there. They tend to have dozens or hundreds of them. If I take a guitar off the wall and want to have a go on it, I expect it to be set up, tuned up, more or less. They will go out of tune, but basically something that I can pick up and play and get an idea of how the instrument will feel and what I'm actually buying. I've been in some shops before and tested guitars from the wall. Okay, they've not been in tune, no problem. A couple of minutes, I can tune that up. I can do that. But the guitar's not even been set up since it's been shipped from the factory. So I've got strings buzzing. It's the intonation's not correct. So even though I tune it using the tuning heads, it doesn't sound in tune when I'm playing it up here. The neck's not quite set up straight, so that the action is very noticeably different at different parts of the neck. And really, that's not giving me a fair impression of what I'm buying. So a good shop will have the guitar set up for you, so that when you want to go and try it, what you're playing, what you're feeling is actually what you're getting. And also, a good shop will give you the after sales service. So if you've got any problems afterwards, they'll be more than happy, and they'll invite you to come and bring it back if there's anything you're not happy with, because they're reliant on your customer service being satisfactory, because otherwise they won't have any customers and they'll go out of business. So again, this isn't really a sponsored video, but as I'm talking about the differences between good shops, bad shops, I couldn't not mention my local shop, Pro Solo Music in Burnley, Lancashire. They are absolutely fantastic guitar specialists. The guy is all about guitars. It's not just a salesman. Everything's set up correct. You're welcome to try everything. He's a guitar tech and luthier as well, so he does all the repairs and the setup type of things. Guitar tuition, very experienced player. Very, very experienced, quality player. He also plays in a band using his own equipment from his own shop, which just shows me the confidence that he has. So that's a fantastic example of a local shop. So local shops aside, if you're not lucky enough to have a local shop, then what options have you got? You can buy mail order online, either from a dedicated music shop or some of these Amazon style shops that just sell everything. Of the two options, I'd probably go for a dedicated music shop that's got basically the reputation is built on music. I don't know, I'm not that familiar with many of them, but if you look around on the internet and look at some of the reviews and things like that, then you're going to find out probably the wheat from the chaff, the good from the bad. Sometimes you will find that the absolute lowest prices can be found on, again, some of these Amazon box shipping sites, but then you've just got to be aware of what comeback have you got if the guitar's not right when you get it. Okay, you might pay by card or whatever, have some protection, PayPal, you might be able to send it back. You've got all the hassle of boxing up something like this and posting it back to where it came from. It's just a hassle that you probably don't need when you first want to start playing. So what can you do to make sure that you get something decent even if you don't know what you're looking for? One of the things that I'd always advise is if you can do this, get someone who's more experienced to help you buying the guitar. You might have your own guitar teacher or tutor who should be able to give you a lot of good advice and some good tips. They might even be able to put you onto some companies or shops that are recommended from them based on their own experience and knowledge, that they are aware of the things to look out for, and they might have bought things from there previously to help you. If you go into any sort of local shop, if you can take a friend with you that plays guitar, if you're not able or confident to be able to go and try one for yourself, you might have only just been to one lesson and not even have your first couple of chords down, so you're not going to be able to realistically go into a shop and get a feel of what the guitar's like. So if you can take someone with you that can play a little bit more and is confident in doing that in a shop environment, which can be a bit intimidating if you've only just started playing. There might be other people in there giving it the widdly diddlies, and you don't want to just, oh, I've only just started playing. Totally understandable. So as with anything, so if you're going to buy a car, if you've got a friend who's a mechanic or something like that, you take them with you. So if you've got anyone else that can shed a little bit of light on the subject, take them with you. Visit a few shops. Have a chat with the other customers that are in there, and that'll give you a good impression of the type of place that you're buying from. They'll be able to tell you any experience they've had of buying from that shop, buying from another shop, and just gain as much knowledge as you can from it. Just be sensible, and again, try and make sure that you're not going in blindly and just buying something off the wall that you've no idea about, might not be properly set up and working. And at the end of the day, it's going to either make your playing experience less enjoyable, or it's going to cost you more in the long run. If you buy a guitar that's not properly set up, there might be nothing physically wrong with it, but it's never going to be as nice and as easy to play as what it will be when it's set up properly. Some shops just send them out like that, and their attitude is that it's the customer's responsibility to have it set up how they want it afterwards. So that means, well, what does that mean? That means that you buy the basic thing, and then if you're not happy with how it plays, or if something's not quite right with it, then you either have to try adjusting it yourself. Again, if you're a beginner, that's not an option. So you're taking it to another music shop or a guitar technician to try and make these adjustments for you to make the guitar right. To me, that's not really how it should be when you're buying a guitar, because to have that done, it's probably going to cost you upwards of 50 quid, if not more, depending on what you need doing to it. So I don't know, between 50 and 100 quid perhaps, on top of the price of the guitar, just to get it playing right. So you might be saving 10 quid by buying something off Amazon, but just be aware if it comes in a cardboard box and it's been shipped in a crate from the other side of the world, by the time it gets to you and it needs the extra money spending to set it up, you might have been better off spending the extra 10 quid, 15 quid, buying it locally and getting it right to begin with. So assuming that you can find a shop or a supplier that you trust, what guitar should you buy? I can't tell you that because it depends on every individual. Everyone's got their own preferences of guitars that they like. Even if you're not used to playing, a lot of people that I meet have got they've got ideas about guitarists that they've seen playing before in bands, and they want to get a guitar that looks like them. So they might want a red Fender Stratocaster or a Sunburst Gibson Les Paul or something like that. The style of the guitar, because that is it's often an overlooked thing. Your guitar should be something that you like, that you want to pick up and play. So regardless of how good it is, it might have 5-star reviews from everybody, and it might be the best value deal available on the planet, and you might get this one-off chance to buy it at 20% less. But if you don't actually like it, if you're not passionate about the guitar, if it doesn't speak to you, if you're not keen to play it, then perhaps it's not the guitar for you. It's just, a lot of people consider it a small point, the looks of the guitar and the style of the guitar. But again, if it's something that you look at every time you see it and you think, oh yeah, that's cool, I want to play that, I want to pick that up and give it a go, I love it, it's fantastic, it's not just a guitar, it's my guitar, then it's going to help you practicing, it's going to help you playing, because you feel more at one with the instrument. Go to a shop, have a try of a lot of different guitars if you can. Even if you're not too comfortable with the playing side of things, how does it feel? How does it feel when it's sat on your knee like that? Is it comfortable? Can you move your hand up and down the neck without any sharp edges or anything horrible like that? Can you get your other hand over the top of it comfortably so that you can play it in a decent way? All those things are important. And again, whatever makes the guitar more attractive to you is going to be a good thing. So I'm sorry there's no right and wrong answer, but if as a base piece of advice, if you can't have a friend that'll go with you and help you, if you've nobody else to give you that advice and to give you that extra backup, then I would say your best bet is to try and find a reputable local shop where you've got less chance of being sold something that's unacceptable, because the shop will know that if something comes wrong with the instrument, then you're going to bring it straight back. Just because you're inexperienced, as I've said to some of my students, if they go and buy a guitar from whatever shop that's in the local area and then bring it to lessons and bring it to me, and if I can find there's loads of problems with it, then I'll be telling them my advice is to go back and say, look, the guitar teacher, someone more experienced than me, has had a look at this, found X, Y and Z, I want it sorting out. So it's in their interest to give you something that's a good quality. I can't recommend any particular brands or anything like that. I'm not paid by any brands or anything like that. I wish I was. So the name on the guitar is not that important, really, when you're buying a guitar, unless you're really buying it as a fashion accessory. I've got a couple of guitars by this brand just because I happen to like them. I think they're a well-made guitar. That's not to say they're the best in the world, that's just my personal preference. There's loads of different brands out there that some of which are new to me, that I'm hearing of all the time, and they make brilliant guitars. One thing to bear in mind is that a lot of guitars at the sort of entry-level point of guitars, not the super expensive custom shop type thousands of pounds guitars, on the sensible sort of level guitars that you'll find, a lot of them are often made in the same factories in the same countries, and they just have sort of different names and different styling put on them. So don't get too carried away by the name on the top of the guitar. If you find a guitar that works well for you, that plays right, sounds nice to you, and is reliable, doesn't have any problems with it, then it doesn't really matter what name's on the top of it. If you're buying your first guitar, I probably wouldn't go daft spending too much money, because there's always a chance, and hopefully this won't happen, there's always a chance that you might not decide to stick with playing guitar for whatever reason. You might find that you've given it a go for an amount of time, you just don't like it, you might find your circumstances change, you don't have time to put the practice in, so you don't want to be spending loads and loads of money on something for your first instrument, just in case that type of scenario happens. If you decide that you're going to stick with playing guitar and carry on progressing and getting more experience, learn more about, as well as learning more about playing, learning more about guitars and the different types of them, there's nothing to stop you getting another guitar later, upgrading your guitar for a better one, or one that's more suited with you. I've done that God knows how many times, changed guitars, and eventually ended up with the guitars that I want to do. So don't go blowing an absolute fortune on your first guitar. Try and get someone to, if you can get someone to give you some help, advice, preferably go to the shop with you and have a look on the guitar. Or failing that, if you don't have access to that, just ask as many people as you can for their opinions, and what experience they've had of different guitars. There's reviews out there, there's loads of reviews out there, so make yourself a short list of the type of guitars that you're interested in and want to buy, and take it from there. As I say, for my students, I always offer open advice about anything, so if someone comes to me saying, oh, I've seen this in a shop window, what do you think? I'll try and help them as much as I can. I would hope that, again, if you've got your own guitar teacher, they'll do the same for you. Or if you don't have a teacher that you pay for or whatever, if you know somebody else that's an experienced player, pick the brain, just try and get the tips from them, and try and make sure that you don't get end up with something that's unsatisfactory or just not playable. Because if you end up with a guitar that's so bad that it's difficult to play, it's going to put you off from day one. You're not going to want to practice it, nothing's going to sound right, and you're going to be fighting with your muscles every time you try and do it. So it's important to get something that's sort of well set up and decent to play, and most importantly, that you're going to enjoy playing.